You're listening to the J.D. Rucker Show. Let's begin. Well, I guess it's the beginning of the Summer of Love 2.0. Tuesday night was a disaster for the United States of America. We saw the expected protests that were sort of quashed a little bit. They'll still continue, but at least the occupation of a building at Columbia University was rightfully stopped. But what happened at UCLA last night, that was a disaster. And unfortunately, I don't believe it's going to be the last one. I'm J.D. Rucker. You're watching the J.D. Rucker Show, and I appreciate you greatly. Be sure, if you would, be sure to subscribe, because we're going to be talking about pretty amazing things today and pretty much every day going forward. It's been a while since I've done back-to-back long-term, all these extended shows, but we're getting back into it. Praise God for that. Praise God for the opportunity to do that. The only possible hiccup is that we are moving, and so there's a chance that we might actually not be able to do a show at some point next week. But I'm going to try to be doing these every day, 5 days a week, at least, perhaps even 6, perhaps even 7 days, because we are entering into crunch time for the United States of America, and I feel that I feel obligated to do what I can to try to inform people. So please be sure, whatever platform you're listening to or watching this on, be sure to hit the subscribe button. It will help us out a bit, or a bunch, actually. So UCLA was that violence was not anticipated. We saw some of it during the day. It seemed like it was ramping up, but I don't think anybody was expecting it to turn into a full-blown, it was like, it reminded me of the scene in The Outsiders at the end, where you got the two sides, the socias and the greasers were having their big brawl, their big fight. That's what it looked like, okay? That's what it looked like. And unfortunately, it seems as if the powers that be, the globalist elite cabal, the deep state, the uniparty swamp, whichever variation we're attributing this to, they were able to not just obviously have the pro-Hamas side, the anti-Zionist side, but they also were able to put together a pro-Israel side. They were able to get other useful idiots to join into the cause of, hey, we're going to fight back. And they brought fireworks. They brought weapons. This was a brawl, folks. If you didn't see the footage, you're going to see at least a little bit of it. I'm not going to play a bunch of it because I don't want to. I don't like to glorify violence in any way. And at least one reporter in LA certainly did seem to be pretty happy about the violence, but we'll play that here in a bit. First, I just have to be very clear that and other people said this, you've probably heard it before, I want to reiterate the point. This is not organic, based around a love for Palestine, or hatred for the Jews, or hatred of Israel. And then on the other side, this is not, we've got to go defend Israel. Okay, we got these two sides. Both are being driven by the same people. They find the easiest targets, which are the useful idiots in our college campuses, the tweeners, the ones that they think they're adults, but they're not quite there. They haven't really formulated their ideas, but they think that their ideas are the best. They think they're the smartest people in any room they walk in, because they're going to Harvard, they're going to Columbia, they're going to UCLA or whatever, and they're adults. See, it says so on my driver's license. Well, they're not. Okay, not at least from a maturity perspective, and they have, because they've been brainwashed, and because they haven't lived in the real world, and because they haven't actually done anything yet, they're so vulnerable. And the powers that be know this. This is why all of this is starting with college campuses. Where is it going to go from here? We'll see. I don't want to make predictions, nor do I want to give anybody ideas. But I do think that this can and likely will lead to something far worse between now and the election, possibly after the election, and possibly canceling the election. But we'll talk about that later. Let's go straight into the story about what happened last night. So this is Jennifer Van Laar over at Red State. Total anarchy as violence erupts at UCLA's pro-Hamas encampment, and the police were AWOL, and they were AWOL for most of the night. Now, this was by design. The cops were prevented from going there because this is what they wanted to happen. They wanted the videos. They wanted the violence. They wanted the chaos. And they got it. So early Tuesday, we brought you a story about a mother of a Jewish student at UCLA who requested help from UCLA police for her son, who was prevented from getting to class by Hamas sympathizers who have taken over a portion of Central Campus. She was told that UCLA PD was not going to interfere with the protesters. At that point, there had been sporadic incidents of violence, and by Tuesday afternoon, UCLA administrators declared the encampment unlawful and said that the anti-Semitic actions of some participants would not be tolerated. In other words, the crackdown was going to come, just not yet. Well, guess what? You might think, oh, well, if they're gonna either buckle down or they're gonna just go home. One or the other. And knowing what we've seen already, we could assume that the latter was not a very likely scenario. That the actual ringleaders of all these events, of all these protests, they're going to keep these stupid kids, these useful idiots, go lock chain yourself to a scaffolding, or chain yourself to a bench. These are things that actually happened. These poor dumb kids. I feel really bad for them. If everything is still, let's say things go back to normal in 5, 10, 15, 30 years from now, they're looking back and they're thinking, my gosh, how manipulated was I? Or maybe they'll just continue to be useful idiots their whole entire lives and start voting Democrat. Anyway, we'll see. So let's see. It was declared unlawful, yada, yada, yada. Here we go. So independent journalist Anthony Cabasa, who was assaulted by pro-Hamas activists earlier in the day, obtained drone footage of the encampment showing protesters being trained in hand-to-hand combat around the same time as LAPD expected to tear down the encampment as soon as tonight, and potential fights with police expected. So just to show you, and I'm not going to play the video, there's nothing to it. It really is just a group of kids in a circle being taught how to defend themselves. But just to show you, just to demonstrate how brainwashed and indoctrinated and idiotically they're just stupid kids. Just how dumb are they? So here they are. They're being told by the allegedly pro-Palestine people that, hey, the cops are coming. We're not going to run. We're going to fight. They're just fat cops that eat Dunkin' Donuts all day. Don't worry. We got about half an hour, so I'm going to train you how to defend yourself. I mean, you can't make this up. You really can't. I know that phrase is overused in this case. It's legit. You can't make this up. Somebody convinced these kids that they could be trained to defend themselves against the oncoming police that were on the verge of getting there. And actually, it's funny because not that the training helped, but the police did not come, at least not for several hours after that. Not until basically it was too late. On Tuesday evening, pro-Israel counter-protesters started playing music outside the encampment. Then professional agitators streamed onto campus and shot off fireworks towards the encampment, and violence ensued. I'm glad that she worded it like that. This isn't like, oh, the pro-Israel group came and they just started shooting fireworks and beating people up. That's not what happened. Okay, just as on the pro-Palestine side, on the anti-Zionist side, there's the people that are actually prompting all this, leading all this, antagonizing all of this. They have nothing to do with Palestine, nothing to do with anything other than cause chaos in America, plant the seeds, let's get the violence going. Same thing on the other side. Okay, are there people that likely truly support Israel that attended? Of course there were. Just as there are likely kids, these useful idiots on the other side, who also truly support Palestine. Maybe they could even find Gaza on a map. Maybe they even understand the history. Maybe, they are college students, so we'll say about 3% of them, maybe 2%, actually know what they're talking about, and they are true believers. The rest of them are just, again, useful idiots. And the same thing on this quote-unquote pro-Israel side. They got people to get violent, to get crazy, got these kids to do stupid things, and stupid it was. It was so stupid that after the violence ensued, by 11 p.m., private security officers abandoned their post, and UCLA's PD was nowhere to be found. And keep in mind, LAPD was told, don't come, don't get involved. It's almost like January 6th. It's like don't stop them. Just walk them through the Capitol. In this case, don't stop them. Just let them fight. Let them fight. Okay, they're not. They didn't stop the fights. I'm not going to play these videos because they are. I mean, it's just violence. You can play them. I'll leave a link to them in the show notes. But I'm going to play this video. No, not that video. I'm going to play. Well, where's the video I was going to play? Oh, we are going to play this one. This one is from a Fox News report, and it just shows how the violence in real time was escalating. Let's go and play that.
And I don't appreciate not having law and order. I really don't care what you think. And if you don't like it, then you can leave this country, because that's what we expect in America. We expect you to abide by the laws. And as we're watching on the screen, people are now getting hurt. They are fighting. This is going to get very nasty very fast.
This is very nasty right now, this minute. We've just seen an out-and-out brawl between protesters on both sides there. Fighting, hitting each other with sticks again, and it appears to me we're getting firecrackers literally thrown in to the middle of that tent encampment there. This is just a serious danger. Joe Cardinale, if you're there, this is an absolute breakdown of law and order, a real danger to people on both sides, and leaving aside what anybody thinks about the causes in this, the pro-Palestinian cause, the pro-Israeli cause, leaving that aside, this is simply lawlessness on a public...
Yeah, pretty bad stuff. Pretty bad stuff. But it actually gets worse. I'm going to play you a video. I want you to pay attention to this next video, because it's ludicrous. It's not just ludicrous that a guy gets smacked in the face by a flying pallet. It's ludicrous that the reporter sounded like he was doing the call for a UFC fight. I mean, he actually sounded excited about this. Crazy. Watch this.
The shields, tear down the umbrellas.
Oh, look at that! Somebody just took a pallet to the head. That was really, really bad. You're right. The plyboard, the bottom of that brawl right there. Look at that! Look at that! Somebody is being dragged and beaten in the front of that plywood wall. Just incredible. Where are the police? Where is security? Where are these people? Where is authority here? It is something I have never covered without any sign of enforcement, law enforcement, security whatsoever. This has gone now on for over an hour and a half, and it is absolutely appalling, in my estimation, that we have not seen any response. I've just never seen it. This may be a sign of things to come, or this may be what...
As I've said before, obviously this is intended to sow chaos. Right? We're seeing the chaos. We're seeing it on the college campuses, but that's not the only target. You and I are targets as well. This is causing division, not just between left and right, not just between Democrats and Republicans, but you're seeing Democrat versus Democrat. You're seeing Republican versus Republican. This is the one issue where you have very, very passionate views where the views can conflict even when ideologically we're pretty much the same, right? So just as an example, abortion, okay? If you're on the right, chances are you have some degree of anti-abortion stance, okay? Chances are, 70, 80% maybe of Republicans believe that abortion should at least be limited. Some of us are out there, we're saying abortion is bad across the board. We would love there to be no abortion at all. We believe that life begins at conception. God created these little itty-bitty humans, and they should be given the legal right to exist, to live. Others will be like, you know what? Things happen. Rape, incest, mother's life's in danger. Let's just limit it to, let's make it to where it's not so bad, but we'll stop it at 20 weeks, 16 weeks, heartbeat, whatever. Okay. For the most part, if you're on the right, you have some degree of anti-abortion stance. Conversely, on the left, the vast majority on the left have the same, except in the opposite direction. Some of them are like, yeah, abortion should be legal, and with limited exclusions for, whatever. Then other people are like, oh yeah, kill the baby all the way until, we'll have a return policy of 1 year. Okay. You can abort the baby 1 year after birth and everywhere in between. But with this issue, we're seeing division even on our side. There are people, I have friends, and I guess I could say they're former friends, but I have friends that are against me because I am pro-Israel. They're like, oh, I've been called a Zionist shill by people that I've worked with on the conservative side. And I don't return the favor. Look, if somebody has beef, as long as they're not, there's a difference between being full blown, just on the side of killing all the Jews. It's I believe in fairness for everybody except for the Jews. There are people on the right that are like that. There's people on the left that are like that as well. It's not a right or left thing. Yeah, but anything short of that, if they're look, they want a 2-state solution, they want a 1-state secular solution. I disagree with that, but I'm not going to end my friendship over that. If we can agree on 70, 80, 90% of the other topics, that one topic, especially because it's not technically, it doesn't have a whole lot to do with the United States of America, unless you want to get into Bible prophecy and all that stuff. That's a whole other discussion. But because it's not even in our homeland and we got our own issues to deal with here, I'm not going to excommunicate somebody from my life just because they're pro-Palestine or they're anti-Zionist. I'm not going to do it. Okay. And of course there's degrees there, but here's the thing. A lot of people are. The sides are being drawn, or the lines are being drawn, and people are picking sides amongst conservatives, amongst patriots. And the same thing is happening you got John Fetterman out there, of all people. John Fetterman is like the voice of pro-Israel in the Democrat Party. How did that even happen? It's kind of like they're like, well, we got to get somebody. What about Fetterman? Why not? Just get him a pro-Israel hoodie and let him loose. I don't know what all is happening, but point is that this division and chaos is being manufactured. Okay, and I would go so far as to say that it was manufactured all the way back to October 7th and even before. I would say that all of this has been planned, not just by Hamas. I believe that this is the issue, the item that the powers that be, the powers and principalities, the New World Order, whatever you want to call it, the globalist elite cabal, the people that are in charge of the deep state, Bill Gates, Barack Obama, Klaus Schwab, George Soros, people like that, the Council for Inclusive Capitalism, all of these, whatever the designation of these groups are, they are behind all this, in my humble opinion. Now you can say, oh no, it's Netanyahu, or you can say, oh no, it's Putin, or it's Zelensky, or it's Biden, or Obama, or whatever. I don't know. I just know that this isn't real. It's real in that it's happening, but it's not natural. This didn't just pop up. Hamas didn't just think, oh, this is a good idea. No, they were prompted. And Israel didn't just magically remove all of the defenses from the most heavily guarded border in the world, move their military and allow the basically unsophisticated peasants to be able to rape, murder, and kidnap like 1,200 people. That didn't just happen by accident. I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories because I will get into conspiracy theories, but I'm not going to get into that one because I don't know the solution. I just know that just like 9/11 isn't what we're being told, neither was October 7th. And now we're starting to see, now it's making sense, right? Now, this isn't just about Israel. This is also about, and perhaps the United States of America has always been, the primary target. Taking us down, taking us out, isolating us, and then causing strife from within. You couldn't have written it up any better if you are a member of the globalist elite cabal. Let's take a break. When we get back, going to turn to one of my favorite topics with one of my favorite people, Brianna Morello. I'll be joining her technically. You'll see. Just stay tuned.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest. So call Genesis Gold Group now at 1-800-200-GOLD. That's 1-800-200-4653, or go to LindellGoldRush.com now.
All right, before we get to Brianna Morello, I did want one more thing. You know, I'm a firm believer. Don't trust anything. I'm a firm believer in the idea that everything we're being told pretty much is a lie, and all the world's a psyop. Well, here's an example of a narrative that's being pushed out there right now, and it is true, but it's also not true. I'll explain, but let's get to that narrative first. This comes from Axios, left-leaning. Well, we'll just call them a leftist publication. Democrats enter panic mode as Gaza protests erupt. According to this, House and Senate Democrats' anxiety is spiking as pro-Palestinian protests on college campuses around the country kick into overdrive. The protests are fueling a volatile political dynamic sparked by the October 7 attack and the Israel-Hamas war, just as the 2024 election comes into view. Here's a quote from one House Democrat telling Axios, quote, "The longer they continue, the worse that they get, the worse it's going to be for the election overall." And they're saying the election for Democrats. And the demonstrations, according to Axios, the demonstrations, this lawmaker warned, are, quote, "bringing out the public's most conservative side." And I don't know if that's necessarily true. Okay, I know what they're saying is it's pro-police. Many conservatives are calling for police to crack down. Let's talk about that real quick before I go on with that, because I have to be very clear about that aspect of it. Yes, I do believe that the police should get involved when laws are broken. Obviously, last night at UCLA, there should have been police there. It should never have been allowed to explode, literally. in a few cases, it shouldn't have been allowed to explode. There shouldn't have been people taking pallets to the head without getting arrested. There shouldn't have been people getting beaten. I don't know how badly yet, but they were obviously beaten pretty badly, and that shouldn't have been allowed. Laws were being broken. Police need to get involved. But let's be clear: we don't want this to turn into a police state. We don't want protests, especially truly peaceful protests, to be thrown into the mix. And I fear that's exactly what's happening. I'm seeing, even on our side, even on the conservative side, we're seeing a lot of people that are calling for essentially the equivalent of a police state in these college campuses. You know, based upon the view, not based upon the actions. Okay, it's one thing to say, well, I want the police to prevent laws from being broken and to arrest those who break the laws. That's one thing. But what we're seeing a lot of Republican lawmakers, a lot of conservative talkers saying we need a crackdown of these pro-Palestinian protesters. And that's the wrong approach, folks. That ain't it. Because if you start calling for a crackdown based upon an ideology, not based upon the breaking of a law, but because, these protesters, they're doing this, they're doing that, unless they're actually breaking laws, there doesn't need to be a crackdown. There should not be a crackdown, and we shouldn't be the ones calling for it. So, they're pro-Palestinian, so they need to be ejected from campus by the police. Or, hey, they're pro-Palestinian, therefore they need to be suspended or expelled by the colleges. Really? Again, actions. Individual actions. Don't classify the group. Just because you've got one side throwing pallets at guys' faces, doesn't mean that other people on that side, everybody should be lumped in together. There are people that are there that are actually just trying to peacefully protest. And they don't need the crackdown. They don't. I disagree with them. I wish they would go away. But I don't want police getting involved. I don't want them getting expelled, because this is the United States of America. And at least right now, we're allowed to protest. To some extent. I wish we were allowed to protest all the way. I wish we could do what's within our constitutional right to do. But it seems as if now, depending upon the ideology of the protest at the time, either the left or the right is going after it. And essentially, like I said, calling for a police state. We cannot let that happen. Do I want the lawbreakers to be punished? You betcha. But I will not sacrifice our rights to protest for the sake of stopping the anti-Zionists from doing their little chants. They break the law, go to jail. They don't break the law, they should be allowed to protest, period. Back to the article, back to the other aspect of the PSYOP. In the last 24 hours, protests on college campuses from New York to California have escalated in severity. Yes, they have. At Columbia University, demonstrators who were warned, yada, 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 videos coming out of UCLA, we already covered that. Colleges in Utah, Virginia, Arizona, North Carolina, and Florida have collectively seen hundreds of student protesters arrested in the last day. Photos and videos of these campus protests made their rounds among horrified Democrat lawmakers on Tuesday morning. And, of course, on into now Wednesday morning. This isn't known. Oh no, of course they were talking about UCLA. Yeah, don't know why they're talking about the Tuesday morning. It is. Trust me, the Democrats are still concerned about it today, and so should the Republicans be concerned about it. By the way, the Republicans need to be concerned, not because this is going to look bad for them. They should be concerned because if this does continue to spread, then this will prompt laws that could allow for massive widespread voter fraud. We don't need Disease X or COVID 2.0 to pop up for the powers that be to try to steal another election. All we need is this. Okay? What we're seeing, these seeds that are being planted now May 1st. Okay, if this extends May, June, July, August, now all of a sudden we're getting into the crunch time. Yeah, this could be really, really bad. So I pray that it doesn't get that bad. I pray that we are able to recover from this and sanity is brought. Do I expect that? No. Always, expect the worst, hope for the best, right? We're in that mode. And how do we fight it? I don't know. Generally, I like to offer solutions. In this case, it's like, do we go? I mean, I've thought about it. I really have thought about it, trying to figure, do we need to organize their own rallies to show them what peaceful protesters are like? Could that devolve? Could we lose control? Maybe we should just ignore it. Would that be effective? Nothing seems to be the right answer, definitively. Because it seems as if whatever move we would possibly do, they have a counter move. If we go there and peacefully protest, then they can throw in instigators, similar to what happened in UCLA last night. They can just bring in their own instigators to bring fireworks, and all of a sudden, things can devolve very quickly. Most of the people, keep in mind, the vast majority of the people that entered the Capitol building on January 6th had no intention of entering the Capitol building. They just saw the crowd going. This crowd, this herd mentality that we as Americans have, that we as humans have, I shouldn't say Americans, that we as humans have, once things start, it's hard to stop. It's like siphoning, like a siphon in a tube. Once you can get it going, all of a sudden, all the rest starts pouring out. If you can just plant the seed, spark the light the fuse, and then prompt it to explode, it can explode. So then it's like, okay, well then we just do nothing. Well, will that work? I don't know. What is their counter to that? To antagonize further, to advance the protests. If we can't ignore it, and we can't do much about it. People, I know that I can see you guys in there right now typing in the chat, oh, the solution's easy. We just got to do this, or we just got to crack down on that, or we just need the police to do this, National Guard, or shut down all the campuses, or expel them all. Look, there's plenty of answers. All I'm suggesting is there's not any good ones. Every possible answer, every possible solution has consequences. And because we're dancing with basically the devil on the other side, they're ahead of us. I hate being Debbie Downer. I hate telling folks, there's no hope, But in many ways, I don't see a solution. The only solution I know for sure is the one that I always fall back on. When in doubt, pray. Okay, God can, and Lord willing, please, Lord, He will intervene and make things better. He will raise up leaders who can fix this. People that are obviously smarter than me, because I can't think of any good solutions. Maybe one of you. We shall see. So let's get to Brianna Morella. So I did an interview with Brianna Morella. We were talking about beef. And generally, I do these interviews every week. I usually won't play it on my show, but today's I'm going to play this one because it's a conspiracy. It's important, and rather than it's funny because she sent me the topic, and I'm like, holy cow! I was going to talk about that during my show, and I texted her back. I'm like, hey, let's. I'll tell you what, I'll just do it on your show, and then I'll play it during my show. And she's like, yeah, that's a great idea. I said, cross exposure. And if you're not following Brianna Morello on Rumble, you should be, or Twitter. She does very well on Twitter as well, better than me. So give her a follow. She's with Flyover Conservatives right now, and she is. They are fantastic. So find Brianna Morello, and I'm going to go ahead and play her interview of me.
Our federal government is now taking samples of ground beef. It's all related to that bird flu outbreak amongst dairy cows, they're saying. Ultimately, what they're looking to do is just take samples from ground beef products from several states that are currently dealing with the outbreak and see if there's any bird flu going on in that. Now, also, it's important to note that and I don't take anything that they say seriously, but at the CDC, and obviously this is the one that scares me a little bit, the World Health Organization have said that the overall health risk to the public is low regarding the bird flu in our dairy products, but they are deeply concerned with it being potentially infected, and so that they don't want that to get out into the public. Now, it's interesting enough because this article too that we were looking at kind of details a little bit more about this, just saying that scientists believe outbreaks are more widespread in cows than officially being reported, and that they're finding these bird flu particles in about 20% of their milk samples, which is interesting in itself. And again, folks, they're saying that they're using, to test all of this, of course, the PCR test. Remember those are fun. Joining us to discuss everything related to cows, of course, is JD Rucker. He is the co-founder of BriannaMeat.com. JD, thank you for joining us. When I read these types of headlines regarding bird flu, and they're trying to say that it's in a lot of cattle, we probably don't even know how many, but it's significantly higher. The first thing I do is I automatically don't trust them. And I automatically believe that they're just lying to us. But you obviously are the expert here. So what do you make of this so-called bird flu outbreak, and how safe is our meat?
Meat's always safe. Let's just start there. If it's not safe, they will come out and tell you flat out. It's funny how they position these articles. They're all the same. It's all scary headline about beef. Oh, we got to test beef for bird flu, right? Yeah. And then they kind of work in reverse order as far as the important part. You'll notice in the article that you were just referencing, which I had actually read that article earlier, you don't find out. So you hear 20%, 20% of dairy cows or milk, rather, in the supply has particles, is basically infected, is what they say. And this is supposed to terrify you. And if 20% if that's true, then that means that millions and millions of people are drinking milk that has bird flu, right? Yeah. If you go to that article, you look at the very last line. That's where it says that the human case, singular, of bird flu resulted in conjunctivitis, which is pink eye, right? And that person I happen to know did not get hospitalized, is doing just fine. So 20%, millions of people are allegedly drinking the bird flu milk, and one person got, supposedly, and they're not even sure, they can't confirm that he was infected. And it wasn't from drinking the milk, by the way. He works at like a dairy farm or something like that. That's why they associate it. So far, they haven't found a single bit of beef, actual meat, that has been infected. They haven't been able to isolate any of the any cows, any non-dairy cows that have been infected. But here's the most important part. If you can go back and you look at the headline itself, that headline is enough to compel hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people to think beef, bird flu. They start putting it together because 90% of Americans don't go beyond the headline. They see the headline and they make their decision based upon that. U.S. to test ground beef in states with bird flu outbreaks in dairy cows. They might look to see if their state is mentioned, which it's not, because they don't talk about the states. bottom line is, you're right. When you hear about this, you shouldn't trust it. The first thing you should do is roll your eyes. The second thing you should do is roll up your sleeves and try to figure out what exactly are they doing? What is their purpose? And in my humble opinion, this is going after two things. Obviously, they're going after beef, but keep in mind, I think they're also going after raw milk, because they're talking about how, oh, but guess what? Even though 20% has been identified in milk, don't worry, as long as your milk is pasteurized. In other words, don't drink raw milk. Don't go to like the farmers that are selling milk directly to people. That'll kill you. That's
Yeah.
death and destruction. You might get conjunctivitis or something. Or maybe you'll
Yeah.
the PCR test will say that you've got COVID. Who knows? Because that'll kill you. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm being facetious here, but it just frustrates me to death, because they are going after cattle. They're going after beef. And that
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, well, I mean, the line specifically that you're citing, it specifically says that these PCR, the gold standard, I should say,
Gold
PCR test
standard.
showed, yeah, pasteurized killed the bird flu virus in milk, though, and that's what the FDA is pushing out there. And honestly, any of these three-letter agencies these days, I don't trust them. I look the other way. Whatever they tell you to do, I do the exact opposite, because I can't trust them, and I don't believe that they're being honest. Do you think that this is going to be used towards just pushing Americans off beef? I mean, what I mean specifically by that is they obviously don't want us eating and consuming as much beef products as we do. And so do you think that they're trying to slowly ease the minds of Americans into thinking that beef products are high risk, that things like this take place in beef products? And so just to guess groom, I hate that word, groom their minds into thinking that beef products are not good for us to consume, and to start accepting chicken or other products into your life, like fake meat?
Oh, don't worry. They'll go after chicken too.
They do,
Just not
yeah.
yet. The chicken will come later. No, they're going to go. This is, think of it like this. This is they're trying to kill the cattle industry. They're trying to slaughter it with 1,000 cuts from their propaganda steak knives. It's not real. Okay, none of
Yeah.
this is real.
Yeah.
But it's just a little bit by little bit by little bit. Oh, climate change is bad, and cows are causing all the climate change. Or, oh, here's bird flu, that's bad. Or, next thing is going to be, oh, beef is supposed to cause you to lose your hair. I don't know. I mean, they're just going to, and it's a little bit at a time. And again, it's always going to just be in the headlines. They're not going to take this and do these grand studies. I mean, we're making a huge deal out of this. Okay, there were
Yeah.
people that die from eating certain foods that get less attention than, hey, we haven't found any bird flu in actual beef, but we're going to test it for you just to make sure, so we can get the headline out there. It's in 20% of the milk, but only one person in the entire United States of America out of the millions of people that are drinking milk actually got anything, and they got conjunctivitis, and they didn't even get it from drinking the milk.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
joke. It's a scam. It's disgusting.
Yeah, and it's typical. I mean, most people, I used to trust the New York Post and I used to trust all these sources, and now I'm just very skeptical. And I have to say, my skepticism has grown significantly since the pandemic, because a lot of these people who I trusted, sources I trusted, media outlets, agencies, I mean, they all got caught in a lie, and the big lie, and taking money from people they shouldn't have been taking money from to keep pushing the lie. And so my trust is limited with all of them. JD, I wanted to talk about something that's important, and that is coming up with an alternative plan. Because if these people get their way, people like you and I won't be able to, well, I mean, you, because you got your cattle, but we will be able to have access to really important things like proteins, like beef. So you've got the solution over at BriannaMeat.com. It's one of my favorite products to talk about, because it's beef. It's real beef that you guys are selling. It's not none of that garbage nonsense, the beef crumbles. You guys actually found a way to have an alternative for folks at home to rely on beef products like New York strip, filet, sirloins, and they could last up to 25 years, and you can keep them in your closet. So there's a lot going on here. Tell us all about your products.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you allowing me to do that. So at BriannaMeat.com, yeah, like you said, it's only the good stuff. There's no beef crumbles, there's no beef chunks or anything like that. We have ribeye, New York strip, stuff like that. Stuff that you had already mentioned. And yes, it does have a 25-year shelf life. But here's the important key, is that this is, in my humble opinion, and obviously I'm biased, but biased with good reason, good evidence. in my humble opinion, this is like gold. This is like diamonds, except real stuff, not the fake things. This is, to me, in the near future, and I don't know if it's going to be 6 months or 5 years or a decade, but sometime in the near future, they're going to get their way, folks. I mean, look, even while we're here pushing back against their false narrative, what does it matter? Because there's still going to be thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, maybe even millions, who have planted in the back of their mind now, beef, bird flu, beef, bird flu. So it's just, kind of chiseling away at our ability to be able to get beef. I tell people, yes, get it, eat it, because the more you eat, the more you'll want to buy. But I also tell people, get it, save it for in case of emergency, save it for if they eventually outlaw beef, which I think they will at some point, or at least, maybe price it to where it's no longer possible for your average American. Maybe Nancy Pelosi will be eating beef in her 90s, but we won't, because we won't be able to afford $1,000 an ounce beef, which is where it's heading. Point I'm trying to get at is this: is that you can eat it, you can save it for emergencies, but you can also accumulate it, like a lot of people are doing, as basically future potential currency. I mean, there's so many uses for this. Know this: number one, they're going after beef. That's crystal clear from multiple fronts. Number two, you can get it and you can store it away. You can always take it and dehydrate it. You could take it and freeze it. These are ways to get it to about 18 months. But if you go to BriannaMeat.com, use promo code BRE25, BRE25, to save 25% off and get as much of this as you can, because you're going to find a use for it. Okay. And this stuff will last, as you said, for 25 years. So to me, it's a no-brainer. But again, I think I might be biased.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm biased too, only because I really do like your products. I've eaten it before myself, and it's really, really good. You can't even tell that it's been rehydrated, I guess is the best way to phrase it. For audience at home, the best way to do so, I think, so far what I've tested out myself, is to just either boil or just pour beef broth over it and just let it rehydrate that way. And you will never notice a difference. It is incredible. It tastes great. It's quick to put together. It rehydrates really fast. And I think that's really, really important. And again, JD, just because you like our audience, and I like them too, of course, but you've also decided to give them the 25% off discount exclusively, and it's just BRE25, BRE25, and it's a limited time, of course. You extended it for our audience, which we greatly appreciate. But the best part about it is it's not just that. You're also throwing in free shipping, and then if you want to stack up an offer, this is an offer I think anyone, like no one could turn down. You could get an additional 10% off by just simply subscribing and slowly building up your stash. And that's what I think so many people are looking to do these days. So what I mean by that, folks, is you guys could kind of build it up. Just maybe get one item shipped to you a month. And then when you're ready to be done with it, like you've gotten enough, you feel like you're very comfortable with your supply, you could actually stop it. There's no charge at that. Just give them a heads up, stop it. And then it's still a great offer, because then you just got 35% off total. And then you're also donating an extra 10%, of course, of the proceeds to a great veteran cause, which we like over here as well. So it's a lot to get behind, and I'm a big fan. Again, folks, I highly recommend you head over right now to BriannaMeat.com. Take a look. Just look at all the different items. There's packaging where you get these. You can buy them in bulk. If you don't want to do that, if you want to slowly start buying them, you can. And like I told you, with BRE25, you're going to get the 35% off if you subscribe. It's all together. But if you don't want to subscribe, you want to just do a one-time order, you can take off the 25%. But that's for a limited time, folks. So it's going to bounce back to its regular cost pretty soon. So make sure you take advantage of this, because you don't want to be left out. I know I've got my supply. It's stored in my closet space. And I'm limited with space. I've got like a little apartment. I told you guys this before. So it's a very small space that I have, and it seems to do really well. It's not heavy either, the bags. They're very, very light. And it's very easy to store, like I said. So again, folks, head over to BriannaMeat.com with promo code BRE25. You can secure 25% off. Then if you want to subscribe, you get the extra 10% off. But you're also getting free shipping as well. So this is something you can't say no to. Again, it's BriannaMeat.com, and the promo code is BRE25. JD, thank you for jumping on with us. We appreciate. I know you're not an expert at bird flu, but you are an expert at the deep state trying to take down everything plus beef. And so that's why he's like, wait a minute, hold on. So we appreciate you jumping on to talk about that.
I appreciate you having me anytime. And I got to get you on my show. I'm finally starting to do some some more interviews. So I want to interview you,
Oh gosh.
and I put
We
you
have
on
a
the
lot to talk
spot.
about.
Now you have to do it.
I know.
It's on the record, on air. So now you have to say yes. Your
Okay.
audience would not be happy if you didn't.
They wouldn't be happy. That's right. They wouldn't be happy. No, I'll definitely jump on. You know, I love talking to you, and we've got so much. You and I could talk all day. Honestly, I think this is pretty easy for us naturally to talk like this. I mean, I've got a lot to say. We should talk about. I'll talk to you later about that one.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll discuss it. Your
Thank you,
people will call
JD.
my people or something.
Yes, yes, please.
All right, take care. See ya.
Thank you.
I truly enjoy doing my weekly segments with Brianna. She is a kind-hearted person, and she's very intelligent. She knows the topics inside and out. She knows the people very well. She is she has a lot more connections than me. I wish she could get me some of the amazing guests that she's got on her show. But maybe we can work on that sometime. In the meantime, and by the way, for those who missed this morning earlier, I had Tom Renz on, and that was fantastic. So please go check it out. You can always find my channel, Rumble, or sorry, jdrucker.com/rumble. I have two channels. One is jdrucker.com/rumble. The other one is jdrucker.com/rumble1, the number one. Subscribe to both. We are eventually going to be putting different content on them. The reason I'm building a second channel is we're you'll see. There's some good stuff brewing coming down the line. So, but yeah, love doing Brianna's show. She is a true professional, and even at her age, she knows this business better than the vast majority who've been doing it for decades, including me. But anyway, let's get to this next story. Speaking of which, this is one where I agree with the vast majority of what's being said in this story, except that it's wrong. It's wrong for now. It was right before all this craziness happened, but now this is, and I'm not accusing Richard Corcoran over at the Federalist of doing anything wrong. I'm not saying he's a shill. He's part of the deep state. No, I think that he's just expressing his opinions about what's happening, and he's offering solutions. Unfortunately, his solutions are geared around a time when we aren't in an emergency situation, and I do believe that right now, we, the United States of America, we are in an emergency situation. But again, in many ways, he's going to prove my point. So we'll talk about that. But let's get to the article. Keeping college campus radicals in check is possible. Here's how we did it in Florida. According to the article, America's academic leaders seem powerless only because they've spent decades promoting the ideologies now on such brutal and ugly display. The scenes unfolding at America's most prestigious colleges are horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs preaching genocide, at times crossing the line into actual violence, have rendered campuses unsafe for Jews. Faculty members cheer them on, advocating for full-on pogroms. Top administrators flounder. Columbia had protesters arrested and suspended, then stood dumbfounded as a larger, more belligerent wave took their place. Unable to guarantee the physical safety of its students, the school moved all classes online. Copycat mobs on campuses across America formed to emulate that success. So let's start there, as far as why I believe Richard is incorrect in this regard. These aren't copycat mobs. These are all planned. Okay, there might be a couple of copycat mobs, but for the most part, they are the powers that be are sending their agitators and systematically riling the kids up. They're finding the useful idiots, and they're saying, okay, you see what's happening in Columbia, we're going to do it here. And we're going to do it here. Oh, and wait till tomorrow. You see what happened in UCLA. Well, we're going to do that here. And again, in this case, I'm sure that the article was written before what happened at UCLA last night. Otherwise, it wouldn't be just about the anti-Semitic mobs, because it was allegedly, and I've talked about that earlier if you missed it, allegedly a pro-Israel mob that was firing fireworks into the encampments of the anti-Zionist groups. You could say they started it. It doesn't matter. I mean, doesn't matter who threw the first punch. It just mattered that they were both intended to fight each other. They've always been intended to fight each other. Not by the useful idiots didn't know that. They're just the ones that are doing the fighting and getting beat up. No, it's the powers that be who sent in the instigators, the agitators, Antifa. Well, there's a lot of Antifa-style fighting going on. If you watch the videos, you'll notice what are they using as weapons. All this goes back to what Antifa has been taught. They can use skateboards are great weapons and shields. And cops stop you. It's like, hey, it's my skateboard. This is my mode of transportation. You know, umbrellas. It might rain. So let's get umbrellas to not only act as shields against certain, light projectiles, but also they can be used as weapons. This is all pulling from the playbook that was built long before 2020, long before the George Floyd riots. The playbook that's being taught and spread by Antifa, that group that Christopher Wray doesn't think actually exists. Yes, they're out there, and they are hitting both sides. That's the important part here. That's the takeaway. Like I said, I like what Richard's saying for the most part, but he's looking for an ideological and a policy solution to an emergency situation, and that's just not going to happen. So, it's not happening. We need to be in triage mode, not treat the symptoms mode. But anyway, again, I got to be clear because he's right. It's just not for today. He's not right about this for today. But let's go ahead and see. Maybe things will get back to normal, and we can apply some of his brilliant actions because he's been there, done that. This isn't just something theoretical. He's actually participated in the destruction of, or at least the reduction of woke culture at his particular college. So for that, he should be definitely commended. Most Americans find these scenes shocking, and many administrators claim to be stunned. Yet those of us who've been following the disastrous decline of American higher education have been warning for years about the inevitable. America's academic leaders seem powerless only because they've spent decades promoting the ideologies now in such brutal and ugly display, and that is true. Colleges were designed to split people between the anti-Zionists and the pro-Israel groups. We didn't see it, but it was happening on college campuses. We knew it was happening, sort of, maybe intuitively. Maybe we saw a little bit of it, but it wasn't until the actual violence that we're seeing today, wasn't until this eruption of protests, riots, violence. Now it's like, oh, okay, that's what they've been planting the seeds for all these years and decades. Back to the article. Years ago, America's most prestigious academics made a conscious choice to elevate indoctrination over education. Training activists became their highest goal. Radical ideologies that began as ethnic and gender studies swallowed once proud social science and humanities disciplines. Their influence surged into administration as new DEI offices redefined diversity, equity, and inclusion to mean their opposites, then spread their toxin throughout university operations. Wildly generous foreign money, with Qatar and China in the lead, of course, anchored this noxious brew in place. Unwitting parents sent America's top students into four-year immersive environments saturated with division, hatred, mindless obedience, contempt for dissenting views, and zealotry. Their idiosyncratic notion of social justice, like so many of its moral degenerate predecessors, singled out the Jews for particular opprobrium. For those of us who've been watching this corruption unfold, nothing about the current moment seems surprising. Over the past 5 years, now here's the key, this is the kicker, because he notices something and he highlights something, and then he goes back into his theoretical, and not theoretical, his policy solutions, and I'm not even going to get into those. I'll cut to the chase and explain this. Basically, and I'll put the link to this, so it's a good read. But basically, what he's saying is that just basically eliminate DEI, promote fairness, true fairness, promote equality, not equity, promote all that stuff that makes sense. Get away from the bigotry and the zealotry, and focus on education. And guess what? More students will come, more faculty will come, and you won't have these crazy riots. And he's right. But again, this is closing the barn door, or the solutions he's offering would be closing the barn door after the horses have already escaped, or whatever that particular idiom, however that in particular reads. But this is the part that, again, proves my point. Over the past 5 years, however, the scope of the problem has grown to the point that both the broad American public and our political leaders understand the need for action. President Trump's executive orders recognizing Jews as a protected class under civil rights law and banning DEI training from the federal workforce laid important groundwork. Last year, Governor Ron DeSantis positioned Florida's public colleges at the forefront of the long overdue drive to reform American higher education. He placed New College of Florida, where I am privileged to work, at its vanguard. And that's the story of New College of Florida is a really good one, because that's the one where you do get to see the effects. Okay, again, not based upon where we're at now today, but last year and even into the early parts of this year. Prior to October 7th, the world was a different place, and this Richard's attempts, or Richard's desires to change American higher education in this way, that would have applied. It doesn't apply anymore, because again, these kids aren't actively doing this based upon natural and organic copycatting or whatever. This is all being prompted. This is all being manufactured. All of it. Like I said, there might be a college or two that is truly a copycat. But no, the intent of turning these very impressionable young adults, these college students, making it to where they are so open to this, so easily manipulated, gaslighted, indoctrinated, brainwashed into doing the things that they're doing today, this was the intent. And I don't think this is the final intent either. I think that it could get worse. In other words, as much as I don't want to say it out loud because I don't want it to be true, I do believe it's possible that if you were going to, if the bad guys, the powers that be, if they were going to start to build a domestic terrorist network, they would do it through college kids. It wouldn't be the first time. Okay, we've already seen this. I mean, we've seen it in microcosm everywhere from Charles Manson all the way through to Weather Underground. Okay, they like to. I mean, you could even go back to like the French Revolution and Les Mis. Okay, college students are easy to. It's easy to make them get violent. They're physically able to. They're loaded with emotions, loaded with hormones. And if you indoctrinate them and brainwash them in a way that makes them susceptible to the influences of, oh, Israel is the bad guy, American they're the colonizers, the evil empire. The only thing that we can do is to start blowing up power plants. The only thing we can do is to start doing this, that, or the other. And I want to be clear. I think they've been trying to do that for a while, and with very limited success, just not with this particular issue. They've been trying to do it for a while with the climate change issue. And so but unfortunately, the best they could do is get idiots to throw soup cans on artwork and glue their hands to statues. That's not going to do anything. They know that. They couldn't get these kids to make real commitments, or even the ultimate commitment, to participate in actual acts of terrorism, true violence, not in the way that they had hoped. I can't say that definitively. I don't have evidence of it. It's intuitive. I think that they tried with climate change and they couldn't get the desired results. I'm not saying they're going to back down on climate change. It's a whole other issue. But I think that in this case they found, or maybe they created, what they believe is finally the issue that they can use to cause real turmoil, real chaos here in the United States of America. Their intention is to do one of two things. Okay, they want a multipolar world. They want their 10 regional kingdoms. And I didn't just get that from the Bible, for those who are familiar with what I mean by the 10 kingdoms. They got it from their own machinations back in the 1970s, and probably before then, when the Club of Rome met with a very well recognized Henry Kissinger and his young disciple Klaus Schwab as they're forming the World Economic Forum. They at that point started talking about 10 regional powers that fell under the control of one supreme power, so to speak. But the only way they knew that could be possible is either you could either raise up all the other nine to match the United States, or you take the United States down. You can't have a true 10 kingdom multipolar world if you have a superpower or two superpowers or three. They need no superpowers. They need not necessarily equality, but they need no power, no individual country or region to be able to do whatever they want without the risk of repercussions. Right now, and maybe we're already beyond that as a nation, but not too long ago, just a few years ago, we were essentially above reproach It would take a truly consolidated effort in order to take us out, to force our hand. Now, it seems like we're getting closer and closer to no longer having that luxury, having that shield of being the biggest kid on the block with the biggest gun in our pocket. So, rather than trying to make it through military means, they're trying to destroy us from within. And I believe that what we're seeing happening on college campuses today is one of the ways that they're attempting to do. And I say one of the ways because I do believe that this is a multi-front war. This is a multi-pronged approach. This is just one of them. They also want to weaken our military. They want to weaken our resolve. They want to make us more dependent, more controllable. People ask me all the time, why did I get into the whole prepper beef thing when I did? I mean, it's like I've always been a quote-unquote late prepper. I wasn't prepping when Trump was in office. Why did I get into it? Why did I start a company for that? It's because I think it's time, finally, for not just me, but everybody else to get prepared. We need to. We have to. We must. Because we're not going to be able to rely on government when push comes to shove. When it comes to crunch time, we need to rely on ourselves, our local communities, our families and friends, and of course, God. That's it. It'd be nice if you got a good sheriff in your county. It'd be great if you had a good mayor. But at the end of the day, it really does come down to self-sufficiency, being able to take care of yourself. That's why I did it. So, like I said, I will leave this article by Richard Corcoran. It is a great article. I don't want to make it sound like I'm trying to be contrary. Like I said, it's just this article would have been fantastic before all the riots started. Now that the riots are going, it's just too ugly. So let's take a quick break. And when we get back, I don't even know how. Gosh, have I been going for that long? Ooh, I have. I guess I'm more verbose than I thought. Yeah, we'll be right back. Folks, the threats that are happening to us when it comes to our medical freedom, it's not just about COVID-19 vaccines or face masks or lockdowns. There is a true risk to the pharmaceutical supply chain that could put many, if not most of us, in bad situations should that supply chain break down. Company that I work with is they specialize in helping people to secure long-term storage meds, whether it's amoxicillin or diabetes medications or heart medications, various antibiotics. Go to jdrucker.com/meds, jdrucker.com/meds. Use promo code Rucker10 for 10% off and start stocking up. Stock up today. Get what you can as far as the meds that you need, just in case the crap hits the fan and you can't just run down to the pharmacy and pick up your amoxicillin or whatever it is. jdrucker.com/meds. In a way, I lied. Well, not really lied. Just during the break, I went and checked the numbers from this morning's show. We're trying out different times. I had that one going pretty early in the morning, and I am not satisfied with the numbers from that. It wasn't as many as I needed to see. It was an interview that I did with attorney and show host Tom Renz, and it's an important one. It's a really important one. If you didn't hear it, didn't watch it this morning, then I'm going to play it again now. It's over an hour, so unfortunately that takes up my entire show, but that's fine. I'll get to the other topics. Maybe we've been thinking about doing 2 shows a day anyway, so this will be a good test. Maybe we'll have another show tonight. We'll see. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and play the interview that I did with Tom Renz and see what you think. See what your thoughts are, because it's an important one. Again, we're talking about the campaign, essentially the campaign manager, the de facto, not official, but the de facto campaign manager, Susie Wiles for Donald Trump. And Tom was putting out a pretty desperate call to let's get some answers. Is she as bad as she seems? And if she is, does Trump know about it? And if he does, what does that mean? It was a very compelling interview. So I'm going to play that, and that's it. I'm not even going to sign off. I'm going to play that, and And yeah, and otherwise, I'll catch you guys tomorrow or maybe later this evening. We will see. Again, we are in a state of transition and flux and awesomeness. So stay tuned. If you are not subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. If yeah, I think that's. I'm supposed to start. My producer says you got to start saying that more. Well, okay. Yeah, subscribe, please. We need you. We need you. Help me help you, and help you help me, I guess is how it goes. We'll see. Lord willing, I will be back tomorrow with another episode. But in the meantime, you'll stay strong, stay safe. God bless, and watch Tom Renz. So I have the great, wonderful, amazing pleasure of having a guest. You know, I don't have very many guests. I like to go the Limbaugh route of just me talking for 2 or 3 hours at a time. But every now and then, I get somebody who I'm talking to, and they have a story, and it's like, man, I got to bring somebody on and just shut up. And I'm very blessed, pleased, and honored for that person to be joining me today. His name is Tom Renz. He is my friend. He is an attorney. He is a true patriot, a Christian, and just a brother in all things that I believe in. Tom, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm honored to be here, JD. I appreciate you having me on. I mean, you guys have done incredible work on, I don't even know which of your platforms to congratulate you on. You're literally everywhere.
Oh, you know, congratulations. I don't care. I just want to save the country. I'm not ready to give up on the American experiment just yet. So let's do what we can to make it to where we still have an America leading up to the election, before the election, during the election, after the election, no matter who wins. And I think we both hope that winner is going to be Donald Trump. But here's the thing. I've been following your Twitter, and it's absolutely amazing. If anybody's not on X, or if they're on X but not following Tom, then you're making a humongous mistake, because it's arguably the best, what's the way to put it? The best bombshell dropping Twitter account out there. And his name is Tom Renz, but his Twitter account is reversed. It's Renz Tom. At least that's what I think. If I'm wrong, he's going to correct me, because thankfully he's here and he has that information. But you got to follow him, because it's just amazing. Plus his show is on there, and his show is super fun to watch. I tune in every day. So first question, did I get that right? It is Renz Tom, right?
Yeah, we're backwards on Twitter. You know, there's a little nobody account when I created a lot of years ago, and somebody already had Tom Renz, and we just stuck with it. And since surprisingly, when I started doing all this, it started growing. So, and it's too late to change now.
Nope, too late to change now. Unless you can probably buy it out or something like that. You know, it took me a long time to actually get jdrucker.com, because there was a florist named Jay. I'm not going to mention her first name, but it was Jay Drucker was the florist's name, and she had it. She wasn't doing anything with it. I'm like, I will pay you $1 million for it. And then she said, okay. And I was like, I'm just kidding. How about 500? And she said no. So, but then eventually I was just able to get it for pretty cheap. But that's a story for another day. Let's talk serious stuff, though. You have uncovered, thanks to a Politico article, you have uncovered what I consider to be an absolute bombshell, potential bombshell, we'll say, because there's the possibility, and you've been gracious and courteous enough to say, look, if I'm wrong, I'll say I'm wrong, right? But for right now, it doesn't look like I'm wrong. You've discovered some things that maybe there is what is it, a fox in the henhouse? Is that the right phrase? Or is it a coyote in the henhouse? I always get them confused. Somebody's in the henhouse, or potentially in the henhouse, for President Trump, and it looks like you might have uncovered that. Why don't you give us about a 3 to 5 minute overview of what you've learned?
Yeah, so the tip that originally came in from some real good friends up in Michigan. And they said, hey, why is Trump endorsing a rhino that hates him? And I said, what do you mean? And so they went through this, and they presented their evidence to me, and they presented a whole bunch of stuff to me. And I started looking, and I said, well, you're right. This doesn't make any sense to me. And so I started researching. I started looking, well, why would Trump do this? Because we've been asking ourselves this since 2016. Why does he endorse some of the people he endorses that appear to be against America First, appear to be against MAGA? And, I'm 100% Trump 2024. We've got to have him in there. So when I see something that's happening that's a little screwy, I look into it, particularly in light of his first term, where he had so many bad people that were stabbing him in the back, i.e. Mike Pence, etc. Pick your person. So I start doing my research, and I'm looking around and I'm trying to figure out, well, who is it that's behind it, making sure, picking or helping him with endorsements, because he's not, he's the president. He's running $1 billion company. He's getting attacked everywhere. Yeah, he's not betting these people. So I look. The name that keeps coming up is Susie Wiles. And I look at who's Susie Wiles because I'd never heard of her. So I started asking around, and the people that are close to Trump and on the team say, well, she's terrible, but we can't do anything about it. I said, well, what do you mean you can't do it? Well, apparently she controls the schedule, controls access. She's the gatekeeper to Trump. And it turns out she runs his campaign and his PAC. So I said, well, who's Susie Wiles? And I look, and I didn't do any, there was no magic. I did a Google search, for God's sakes. And up comes Susie Wiles working for a company called Mercury LLC. What's Mercury LLC? Well, she was listed on Mercury LLC's website as a co-chair of the company. A co-chair. So she's not just working there, she's an important person there. There were press announcements when she joined, all this sort of stuff, right? Okay, so what's Mercury LLC? Well, Mercury LLC is a PR consulting firm, and they work with both Democrats and Republicans, and they're completely and totally owned by another company called Omnicom. Omnicom is a WEF partner, World Economic Forum partner. Mercury is not only owned by a World Economic Forum partner, but they have on their website very proudly that they represent Pfizer, Gilead, the UN Foundation, Gavi. These are not America First groups, right? So she's working at an entity that is representing and working for a bunch of groups that are as anti-America First as you can get and anti-Trump base as you can get. And so to me, I'm thinking, okay, there's no way that this is known or acceptable. And so I do more work and I do more research and I check with a lot of people and I talk to a lot of people. And a lot of the work and research I have, I can't make public because I don't want to damage the Trump campaign. I want Trump 2024. This is me trying to help MAGA, right? This is me trying to make sure that there's no snakes undermining him, because how would Trump know when he's spent all his time in a courtroom getting attacked? He's got to rely on his generals. But if his generals are not who they say they are, well, that's an issue, right? So I'm looking at all this, and finally I decided, okay, I've got so much evidence, it's obscene. Let's put a little bit of evidence out there and just to ask the question, how is this person who's working for a company that represents everybody that's America Last, leading a campaign in a PAC for America First? And I said, I don't think the president knows. So the very short version is I ask the question, and then I get attacked. Worse than I was attacked when I dropped the info about CIA involvement with COVID. I've never seen such blowback. And so I'm looking around, I'm like, what the hell's going on? All I did was ask. And it's a very relevant question. And here's what I know, JD. When I ask a question, if there's a reasonable explanation, the response is usually to say, well, this, that, and the other, right? If I ask a question and I'm attacked for asking it, that usually means there's something to know. And so I ask the question, I'm being attacked, and my question remains, though. I want to make sure that the president's aware that he's got someone who is America Last, or working with a bunch of people. I'm sorry, I can't say. I don't know anything about Susie other than, according to Politico, she's a moderate. She disagrees with Trump and is generally, when I read the article, I thought I was reading about Dick Cheney, his gravitas. But I say, I look at this, I'm just asking, does the president know, and why does he trust someone like this to provide guidance and endorsements. And you know what? If I'm wrong, if I've made a mistake, if the president knows, if he's aware and he's okay with it, then that's his decision. I don't need to understand it, or I don't need to do any more. I just need to know that the president is aware. I don't have a channel to the president because she's the one that's controlling getting to him. So I don't know whether he's heard or not, but I'm trying to make sure that it's out there enough that the president's aware.
Well, if anybody does have access to President Trump, let's first and foremost, let's find out, is he aware? She's been with him for 3 years now. Okay. She's not the official campaign manager, but she's basically the de facto campaign manager, the de facto chief of staff. And she's a very shadowy figure. Unlike, in 2016, he had Corey Lewandowski. Before he had Steve Bannon. He's always had kind of flashy campaign managers. Then all of a sudden, here's somebody who's working behind the scenes, who doesn't want to have pictures or anything of her taken. She doesn't want to be talked about. And like you said, it's very conspicuous that he is picking some really strange people to endorse. You had mentioned his first term, and you're absolutely right. I mean, we could go up and down the list. You mentioned Mike Pence. There was Rex Tillerson, Omarosa. He was going to have Chris Christie for the bridge incident, Reince Priebus. It's endless, okay? H.R. McMaster. Come on, the deep state himself. So, yeah, there is suspect, and this lady seems to be possibly worse than them all. I don't know. We don't know enough about her, but first and foremost, let's just get it out there. Anyone who has access to the Trump campaign, direct access. I'm not talking about, oh, yeah, no, I got a friend who's got a friend. I'm saying if you know somebody who can get us, or at least get Tom, don't get me, but at least get Tom, to be able to message or talk to President Trump, let's do that, because that seems to be very important. I want to go much deeper into this with you, Tom. Let's take just a quick break. I'm just going to run one little thing, and then when we come back, I want you to go to do a deep dive, if you will, into everything that you've learned. Sounds good?
Yes, sir.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest. So call Genesis Gold Group now at 1-800-200-GOLD. That's 1-800-200-4653, or go to LindellGoldRush.com now.
And we're back with attorney Tom Renz, my good friend. Tom, before the break, you dropped a 3-minute bombshell on us. I know you have more information about it, but let's start with, we assume, yes, that there is the potential that this lady, Susie Wiles, is that right?
Yeah.
That Susie Wiles is... we know she's a rhino. She's ripping on Trump. Basically, she's saying, I like his policy, but I don't necessarily like his personality, or something like that. She was quoted in a long Politico article about her as basically saying, I don't like him, but we need him, It's like, well, that sucks to have somebody who's basically in charge of the campaign, who's the gatekeeper for your campaign, and she basically thinks that you're not a good person, but that she likes your policies or something like that. You had noted in one of your tweets that it'd be like having Mitch McConnell running your campaign. Why don't you tell us what you know about her, and tell us how certain you are, like on a scale from 1 to 100, call it a percentage, how certain you are that she is well, we know that she's potentially a snake, but is she there to to drive him towards rhinoism? I mean, is she just there to make sure that all of her rhino buddies get his endorsement, or is she really trying to get him elected? What is your feel so far about Susie Wiles?
I got a lot of questions, and frankly, I got a lot more questions than answers, right? I mean, we don't know, JD. You can never tell, right? I don't know her. She's intentionally tried to be under the radar forever. And yeah, I don't have insider access to the campaign. My view on this is that we the people, right? So Donald Trump is an America First, we the people MAGA guy. And when I go back to 2016, the thing that was most exciting about Donald Trump was that he was one of the people. He was with the people. He was a fighter. He was willing to interact with the people. Everybody complained about his Twitter feed, but he actually reacted and interacted with the people there. That's where he learned what the people were doing. I mean, he had some amazing capacity to understand his base, and his base was so energized that despite the election fraud that probably occurred in 2016, he was able to overcome, the sure thing, which was Hillary, right? So Trump had all that, but now he's very isolated, right? They've done a great job of isolating the president. You cannot get to the president. You just can't. It doesn't matter who you are. Even people close to him can't necessarily get to him. And a number of people who are close to him have told me that if you get to him, Susie's in the room. So I don't know. I'm not an insider, so I can't confirm all that. But what I know is when I go from state to state to state, and I see these endorsements, and the thing about the endorsements, right, is I'm not talking about who's running for Senate or governor, although there's been some real questionable endorsements there. I'm talking about the guy or the girl who may be running the GOP at the state level, or the GOP committee rep, or a state senator, or some of these different lower level races. Donald Trump is not vetting those people because he can't. From what I've been told, that's Susie's the one that makes those recommendations. I could be wrong. But regardless, whoever's making those recommendations continually pushes people who are quite clearly not in favor of Trump, right? I mean, I can give some, I can, but will not give some specific examples of where things have happened that are causing Trump major, major problems with his base. Now, listen, at the end of the day, we're going to face a lot of election fraud in 2024. He needs every single member of his base out there voting and fighting and doing everything possible to overcome the number of illegals that Biden's got registered, or that he's getting registered right now. I mean, you guys have covered this extensively in your work. I mean, we know what Biden's plan is, right? Bring in tons of illegals, register them to vote, use it to recreate the greatest voter fraud in history. He wants to one up 2020, right? So we've got all this happening, but the lower level, the stuff that makes the machine run, the GOP endorsements, things like that on the state and national committee level, those are the things that make it so that he can fight that voter fraud. Because if the local GOP is not functioning, there is no fight. So these are key endorsements, but he's not going to be doing it. And so when I look at that, that's very curious. Now, the thing that I find most interesting is the number of back channel attacks I'm getting since I broke all this, right? Now, when you do what we do, the attacks can kind of be broken down into two kind of different prongs. One is the direct attack, right? The hit pieces, the death threats, the stuff that we all get in our email boxes every day, and we all love that stuff, right? Then there's the other stuff, which is less bombastic, but almost worse to deal with. People looking for ways to undercut your ability to make money, interfere with your banking. Suddenly you've got investigations. Suddenly you've got complaints. Suddenly you've got censorship in places you wouldn't expect it. You've got all these different things that happen, and there's really no way to trace where they're coming from. But you can always tell when it's happening because you don't get like one issue, you get 50. And the more powerful the bad guy that you're fighting, the more these things that happen. Well, I asked this question, and suddenly there's a poo storm second to none. And I'm not going into which things I know are happening and which ones I don't. I'm also not going to publicly tell anybody which ones are having an impact and which ones aren't, because I don't need to give that away. I've got to counter these things, right? So, when I see that, though, it becomes manifest that I've hit a nerve. Now, what I want to know is the World Economic Forum, the GOP Rhino Never Trumper mainstream, all these people openly hate Donald Trump, right? So if I'm talking about someone in his campaign that's actually doing good things for him, and I'm talking about them negatively, if I was mistaken, those guys wouldn't be attacking me. They'd be like, go, you go, Rams, go, right? That's why I openly said from the beginning that if I'm wrong, I want to retract and apologize. And I do. I mean that, because this is a pro-Trump thing, right? I want to help the president. But, the attacks that I'm seeing behind the scenes, these are things that happen when you're very powerful and connected. These are mainstream. These are mainstream GOP, mainstream uniparty type attacks. So to me, that leads me to the question this even more. And I can put an exclamation mark on this, right? Because I just said I can't talk about some of that. But you know what I can talk about is I can talk about, within a week of me asking some very difficult questions about someone who is in Trump's campaign, who, by the way, when the documents case out of Florida hit, you notice that every single name of everybody in Trump's campaign got leaked that was involved in that case, except for Susie Wiles. That didn't get leaked until later and separately and through an alternate channel. And I don't know if that was supposed to be leaked. Why didn't the prosecutor leak that name? Why did he protect that one? Right? And I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But at the end of the day, what I do know is that when Politico, within a week, writes a 95-page article talking about how powerful and awesome and amazing you are, and you work on Donald Trump's campaign, it makes me a little bit curious. So then I looked at Politico, by the way, and guess what? Politico, remember I said that Susie was tied in with Mercury, which was owned by Omnicom, a World Economic Forum partner. Well, Politico is owned by Axel Springer, another World Economic Forum partner. Now, we all know that the World Economic Forum hates America First because they are literally and openly in favor of a single global government, right? You cannot be in favor of the World Economic Forum and America First. They are literally opposites. You can't be both, right? The World Economic Forum is pushing for a global government. America First means America's a leader and its own thing, right? So you can't be both. So it raises red flags that she's working for a company that's so tied in with the World Economic Forum. It raises more flags that when we ask a question, the World Economic Forum sends another one of their stooges to write a glowing love piece. And then it raises more flags when I see the attacks I'm getting. All I want, and I don't mind shutting up about this. I'm happy to shut up about this and move on to the next thing. There's always another story. But the question I have is, does the president know, and is he aware that it appears that the person that is his gatekeeper is a big fan of globalist type stuff? And is that a conflict of interest that he's comfortable she can overcome? If he is, that's his business, right? And I'll shut up about it. I just want to make sure that I put this out there and made sure it's known enough that everybody sees it. Because the one thing I do not believe is I do not believe that we should be doing things behind a curtain. We need transparency on our side. We need truth on our side. And if there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, then you don't damn well hide it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And that seems to be exactly where she is. And it's funny because you had noted that you didn't vote Pence. Of course, we don't want another backstabber like Pence. I'll tell you who she reminds me of, and this is not, I have not done nearly the amount of research that you've done, but my intuition, when I see this person, when I hear when not literally hear because it was a written article, but I've never actually even heard her voice, but I have a voice assigned to her in my head as I'm reading her quotes in the articles. The feeling that I got was more like Reince Priebus, the former. He was at one point he was Trump's first chief of staff in 2017, and then he was also, of course, the RNC chair for a long time. The last RNC chair that we had that actually won elections, because he was replaced, of course, by Ronna Romney McDaniel, and ding dong, the witch is dead, and so now we can move on from that. But point being is that I get that same feeling from her. It's like maybe even more behind the scenes, because he was a relatively public figure. He didn't mind the camera. She seems to be averse to it. She seems to shy away from it. It's almost as if, like, she reminds me of I forgot the guy's name. He has a strange name. He was the guy. He helped to launch Justice Democrats, and he was the one. He was AOC's chief of staff for a while. He was basically the architect of the Green New Deal, and everybody's like, if I say his name, then I believe it was. I'm going to butcher this, but I think it was Shaikat Chakrabarti, but it's something like that. And Shaikat Chakrabarti, that sounds right. It's probably wrong. Point being is that's the other person that she reminds me of, as far as here's somebody who is actually making big decisions, actually really just guiding, in this case, the campaign for her, and in his case, the campaign for AOC and others and the squad members, and then eventually her actual congressional staff. That's who she makes me. That's who she's reminiscent of, and those people scare me. Okay, they really do, because if you've got like Lindsey Graham out there saying crazy things and trying to get us into 45 different wars, or you've got Mitch McConnell staring blankly at the screen and claiming that he's not a banana, or you got all these various rhinos out there. At least we can see them. We don't see Susie Wiles. I'd never heard of her until you brought her up. And before the Political article, I would argue that the vast 99% of Americans probably never heard of her. And here's the thing, maybe 99% still haven't heard of her or couldn't recognize her name. Maybe she was able to get out there just a little bit, just enough to wave, hey, WEF friends of mine. You're absolutely right when you say that they are opposites. America First, the America First movement, which is about sovereignty, which is about literally America first. And you say we should be leaders. I would say we can be sort of leaders, but as long as our leadership doesn't interfere with what we're doing here. We got so many problems already that we really can't spend our time dealing with everybody else. Whereas, of course, the World Economic Forum, they want one of two things to happen. They want to they're trying to take America down. They want to either bring us down to everybody else's level so that they can have their 10 regional governments that they of course control. But on the way down, if they push too hard, maybe they'll actually end up destroying us. And they're okay with that too. Doesn't matter. As long as we're either equal to, there's the U.S. and there's Brazil and there's Zimbabwe, and they're all equal, right? In the eyes of the WEF. At least that's what they want. And if they actually end up taking us all the way down, pushing too hard, so be it. They don't care. And that is discouraging. That what is it? Omnicorp? Omnicon? Evil Corp? Omnicon. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't pick a more evil-sounding name for a globalist organization for Susie Wiles to be directly affiliated with. Crazy stuff. What's your feeling? So let me ask you this, and this is a tough question, and if you don't want to answer it, I'm okay with that. If she had just come on the scene, I'd be like, oh my gosh, Trump has no idea. Because he does. I mean, let's face it, he has to make decisions about personnel, and oftentimes he has to make decisions through people who are making decisions through other people. I mean, we're talking about a guy that has that even when he's not president, he has to make decisions about hundreds, thousands of people, whereas when he's actually back in office, and just as he was in 2017, you have to make decisions about far, far more than that. And you have to rely on good people around you to help you make those decisions. He can't go out there and vet every single sheriff that he's going to endorse or district attorney, as you said, but maybe she is that gatekeeper. But here's the thing. She has been with him for 3 years. Some would argue that she's been the most powerful person within his orbit, within his realm, his circle, his sphere of influence, that she's been influencing for 3 years. So my question for you is, you say you want to talk to him. Do you think there's a chance that he already knows and he's okay with it because he sees her as a winner? And if he has to help some random county clerk that he doesn't care about get into office, so be it?
If that's the case, then that's his decision, right? And I still support Trump. He's the best of the. And you're right. It's a tough question, but it's a fair question. And yeah, I'm absolutely going to answer it. Here's the deal. I support America first. And I believe Donald Trump is America first. So if he's got some sort of a devious plan that I don't know about, that's great. I'm not by any means in the right pay grade to know everything. What I am is part of the MAGA nation. And what I have the right to do, in light of the disastrous people that he had around him in the first term, and in light of the number of deep state bad guys that are going to try and infiltrate him the second term, what I have every right to do, and am doing, is asking, Mr. President, are you aware? And I have that right. And not only do I have that right, I would say we have the obligation. If you want Donald Trump to win and you see someone undermining him, you got to ask the question. Listen, I put myself in his shoes. I got a multi-billion-dollar empire I'm trying to run. I'm the most attacked president in history. I am under attack as much when I'm not president as when I was. I'm trying to run for president. I got 90-some counts against me in a bunch of BS bogus cases. The last thing I have to do, or have time to do, is to micromanage who's doing what. And sometimes, and you got to understand something, the people closest to him are the people most likely to be targeted to be bought off. Now, I'm not saying that she was. I don't know if she was. I don't have evidence on that. What I am saying is that I've presented a fair question, a question that MAGA Americans should be asking, because most certainly, based on her resume and what I'm seeing, she is not a MAGA American. So why is she in charge? I don't think it's an unfair question. And, the thing is remember, Donald Trump is probably the best and most brilliant negotiator out there. One of the best presidents in my lifetime. But he's human. You got 24 hours and 2 hands, and he's under attack more than anybody else. She's been there for 3 years. Show me anybody else in his orbit that's been there for 3 years and hasn't been attacked. How is it for 3 years she hasn't had, nobody says a peep about her? How do you think that the mainstream media doesn't know her? Do you think that the World Economic Forum, who runs Politico and runs all these other things, do you think that they don't know about her? Why haven't they attacked? I think that's as pointed of a question as anything. When you say to me that she's been there, he's vetted, okay, well, listen, with due respect to the president, and obviously, I'm not angling for a position in the administration. I don't give a damn. I just want to be a free American, make sure that my kids can live. With due respect to the president, he's put some really crappy people around him. Mm-hmm. This particular person has a resume that is not America first, openly says she disagrees with a lot of his stuff, and yet apparently has keys to the kingdom. And again, I can't make some of what I have public without damaging the campaign. And I'm not willing to do that because I am Trump 2024, period. So I'm asking the most obvious questions, the questions that anybody can and should ask, right? Sometime between now and the election, someone is going to ask him, hey, Mr. President, why is it that your campaign manager looks like a WEF stooge and no one's doing anything or asking any questions about it? This is an important thing. And at some point it's going to come up, and it's better that we can have, if I'm wrong, I'll go out and apologize. I'll go out and I'll fall on the sword. I'll tell Mr. President, I was dead wrong. Susie Wiles is wonderful, et cetera, if that's true. But not because someone said so, I need some evidence, right? And it's manifest that we, the people, have to ask these questions because, again, remember, even if you're of the Q orientation, right? So I don't have any evidence about any white hats or anything else. And my question for them, for the Q people, is always, well, how many people got to die before someone does something if you think that they're doing something, right? But even if you believe that, okay, so there's white hats and good guys doing whatever. Do you think the black hats and the bad guys aren't trying to infiltrate? Do you think that they're not fighting back? And the question I have is it really so impossible to believe that this person who's been super secretly and under the radar running everything around Trump's universe for 3 years and no one's brought up her name, that there might be a reason for it? I mean, I think that's a fair question to ask.
No, it absolutely is. And it's funny because, the counter argument to that is that, oh my gosh, if he's known her for 3 years, we're talking about Donald Trump, we're talking about 4D chess, we're talking about, he only picks the best people. If she's that important, then surely he knows something more than everybody else, right? That's the argument that they'll make. And I've got 4 counter arguments to that. Okay. Before I name those counter arguments, let's keep in mind, people say, if you ask your average American, who's the second most powerful person in the White House? Okay. 9 out of 10 will say it's the vice president. That's wrong. The vice president is the backup quarterback. They don't make any decisions. They're like, literally, they sit the bench and they're given assignments. They're Frito. Send Frito to go pick up somebody at the airport. Send Frito to Ukraine to bail out his son. Send Frito here. Whatever. That's what the vice president is not the second most powerful person. They can become the most powerful person if the president's. But again, they're just the backup quarterback. It's like saying the backup quarterback is the most important player on the field. No. It's not the vice president. The second most powerful person in a White House, in an administration, is the chief of staff. And who have been Trump's chiefs of staff? Reince Priebus. Horrible. He was replaced by John Kelly. Far worse. Okay, he was replaced by Mick Mulvaney. Decent guy, totally worthless as chief of staff. He was replaced by Mark Meadows, who I've had dinner with Mark Meadows, and I don't trust Mark Meadows at all. So, nice guy, great smile. But between the 4 of them, I believe that Trump made 4 bad choices for the second most powerful person in his administration. So is it really a stretch to say that maybe he made a bad choice for the most powerful person in his campaign? What do you think?
Well, I think that the whole argument, Trump makes the greatest decisions about who he hires, falls flat on its face as soon as I mention Mike Pence. I mean, I don't have to go real far on that. Oh, he does? Would you like the list of people who betrayed him and stabbed him in the back? He's got a few good people. I mean, look at what Navarro did. Compare Navarro versus some of these other guys who couldn't wait to throw Trump under the bus. I mean, and pick your guy, pick your cabinet member, pick your this, pick your that. Now, to my mind, the single most important thing that Donald Trump needs is someone unassailable, someone who will actually be trustworthy. And I think he needs a team. What I've said is, I said Donald Trump needs to approach this like Elliot Ness. He needs a team of untouchables, people who cannot be bought. And they don't have to be the Secretary of State. They don't have to be the Chief of Staff. What they need to be is the people vetting the people around him and up their butts 24/7, watching and just reporting honest to God truth, good, bad, or ugly. And it shouldn't matter whether Donald Trump wants to hear it or not. This isn't a matter of whether you want to hear it. This is just a matter of you are trying to have the most powerful seat in the planet again for a second time. You know that your agenda is one that is opposed by the most powerful evil people on the planet. You have got to have someone trying to decide the difference between who's good and who's bad around you, who can communicate with you openly and honestly without fear of repercussion. And, at this point, my question is, who would that be? Who would that be? Because I'll tell you, when I've talked to people who are in and around Trump, I found maybe 2 or 3 people that like Susie and about 50 that dislike her. And what I will tell you is that the people who say, no, we don't like her, we think she's a bad egg, she's this, she's that, all universally say, but there's nothing we can do about it. We'll get fired if we speak up. We'll get this, we'll get that. I don't work for him, and I don't give a damn if he ever gives me a job, gives me a phone call, or anything else. I just want my country free, right? I just don't give a damn about anything other than a free. My boys are 11 and 14. Biden is trying to start World War III. To hell if my kids are going to get conscripted to go fight in Ukraine. Bullcrap. That's what I care about. And, the idea that I shouldn't rock the boat, I shouldn't ask questions. Absolutely, I should. If you don't have the courage to back Donald Trump and to back America first, which is his platform, he created this. He created MAGA. All I should be getting is a thank you note, but instead I'm getting kicked in the teeth for it. If you don't have the courage to do this, then you're not MAGA. If you don't have the courage to ask and challenge your own beliefs and to challenge what you see when true evidence is presented, I gave screenshots. What do you want? I gave screenshots of a publicly available website, and it openly says, Mercury LLC, we represent Pfizer, we represent Gilead, we represent Gavi, we represent the UN Foundation. We're owned by Omnicom. Omnicom is proudly presented as a partner to the WEF. What do you want? I just presented data and asked a question. Okay, I could be wrong. I'll grant you. I could be dead wrong. And if so, I will be honored. I'll come back on this show. I'll come back on with Alex. I'll come on back on anybody who'll have me and say, man, was I wrong? I got the inside story. I got real evidence that shows that I made a mistake somewhere. Let's just move on. My bad. My apologies. Donate to Donald Trump and never listen to me again because I'm a moron. I don't, whatever. But the thing is I just presented what I saw. And the idea that, he's been there for 3 years, so she must be good. He had a couple people in his, Mike Pence was vice president for 4 years. That's not listen, a bad guy who is pretending to be a good guy can do that for a long time and can do it well. And there's a lot of ways to do that, right? That's the whole idea of intel, spy, CIA, that whole thing. And I'm not saying she's that. I don't have any evidence of that. But that's the whole point. You infiltrate and you sabotage, or that's what espionage is. So the idea that it's impossible that the most powerful man on the planet, who's seeking the most powerful seat on the planet, could have people trying to infiltrate. Listen, if you're the World Economic Forum, you made trillions of dollars with a T off of COVID. Your members did, right? So do you think that spending $100 million to infiltrate and to try and manipulate, the president of the United States is a bad investment? Hell no. We got Disease X on the horizon. We've got the WHO treaty on the horizon. We got all these things. If they spend $1 billion trying to infiltrate Trump, it's a good investment for them. So at the end of the day, it just comes down to this. How sure are you that I'm wrong?
I am definitely not sure that you're wrong. But here's the thing. I hope you are.
I do too.
If you're wrong, praise God, because that means, okay, cool. So he's actually finally, on the fifth shot, he finally picked him a winner. Not just somebody who can win elections, but also somebody who can make sure that he's doing what's right. And maybe there is a master plan. I'll tell you, I'm not holding out hope for that. Not at least with Susie Wiles, because, like you said, she seems to be the most likely candidate who is getting him to back. I forgot who he's backing up in. I see, like you said, that many of his endorsements have come across, and they've just been head scratchers. They just didn't make any sense to me. Knowing that she was there when he was backing, for example, Dr. Mehmet Oz. Okay,
yep.
That was ludicrous. Okay, but it's funny, and this is where Trump might say one thing, right? And he'll back it, and he's done with it. But I was getting attacked back then during the Mehmet Oz versus Kathy Barnett, getting ready to take on John Fetterman. I was getting attacked by some prominent people in media, people at Newsmax, people at Fox News, because I was getting hit by, what's his name? Guy I like, Rick Grinnell. Rick Grinnell was coming after me hard, but but I was not wrong. I think that he made a mistake. He made a mistake in that endorsement. And now I'm seeing like a string of those. Who knows? Maybe Susie Wiles is involved. But if we're both wrong about that, praise God, because that means that the country is in better shape than we thought. I look at it like this, and let me get I'm going to put on my, do I have any tinfoil? I got to get some tinfoil. No, I don't have any. So we'll just pretend like I've wrapped my head in tinfoil. We'll pretend like you did as well. And here's my thought, because knowing that she's been there for so long, knowing that she has so much control over his campaign, knowing that she's probably going to have similar control, such as being his first chief of staff if he were to win the election. The way that I would see that is the powers that be, the powers and principalities, the globalist elite cabal, people at the World Economic Forum and other organizations such as the Council for Inclusive Capitalism and all of those, these people don't like any scenario where they can't be able to exert some sort of control. So when they're looking at this, they're seeing Biden failing. They're thinking, maybe we need to hedge our bets. And if Trump were to win, if his win is so huge that we can't even voter fraud our way out of it, then we need somebody on the inside who might be able to guide him in the wrong direction. Just like I think that they were the ones that ended up putting all 4 chiefs of staff, plus Mike Pence and a bunch of other people, Rex Tillerson and the like, H.R. McMaster. I think that they were the ones that essentially infiltrated his campaign, or first his campaign to some extent, but definitely I don't think that they were even caring so much because they didn't think he could win. But once he got in the White House, it's like, oh crap, we got to get our people in there, and that's what they did. And I think in this case, they're not taking it for granted. They started early, and maybe, just maybe, I don't want to get hit with a libel suit. I'm just speculating here for the sake of entertainment value, but maybe Susie Wiles is their ace in the hole. Who knows? What do you think?
Well, I mean, listen, again, we can't verify that, but it's everything that you're saying makes great sense. Wouldn't you want to have some mechanism of control or to exert some control? Now for anybody that says, it's impossible, let's look at this, right? So Susie's working for a company that is 100% in on the COVID stuff. Now, I have offered to have Peter McCullough to fly every expert that I can find, the top experts, the McCullough type experts on the COVID vaccine on my dime. I've publicly offered it numerous times to fly them on my dime to Mar-a-Lago to update the president, let him know about these vaccines. He won't even hear it. Now, maybe he didn't get the message, but I'll offer it again here. Why? Why wouldn't you listen to what your base wants? I mean, your base clearly wants that. Why wouldn't you at least listen to your base? Why don't you want to hear what your base is saying? Well, I mean, if your potential chief of staff is representing Gavi, Pfizer, Gilead, and UN Foundation, that would probably account for that, right? What else might be going on, right? So one of the things I saw is one of Trump's people was out and doing an interview. I can't remember who it was with, but I saw on Twitter, and they were talking about using biometric IDs and data to eliminate voter fraud, right? Did you see this? So they're talking about using biometric IDs and data to eliminate voter fraud. Well, if you're Donald Trump and voter fraud is the bane of your existence, you want to do anything you can. Now, we could eliminate it by having same-day voting with an ID, but no, we're going to talk about biometrics. Well, biometrics is the foundation for vaccine passports, CBDCs, and everything else. I ain't doing it. You ain't getting it. So, but Trump's got one of his people out here talking about that. Well, if you had a person who was, World Economic Forum oriented, that was sitting there and whispering into his ear, say, hey, Trump, we're having a hard time passing this. Why don't we just do biometrics? That'd be real simple, right? If you don't know about the World Economic Forum plans to push, CBDCs and all this stuff, and I know Trump's aware of CBDCs, but the vaccine passports and all these other things, and understand truly the true danger of having digital IDs. That is a truly, truly dangerous thing for American privacy. It ends privacy, right? So if you don't understand that may sound like a great idea to eliminate voter fraud. And if you're Donald Trump, that sounds like a great idea. But if you don't get to hear from the other side, much like COVID, well, it makes total sense. And if I haven't heard anything else and I trust my advisor who's telling me, so why not do it, right? And this is the problem, right? This is the problem. If you've got the person, the most powerful person in any powerful person's office is the person who controls the schedule and access. And by any and all accounts, that's Susie. She's apparently in every meeting, on every phone call, and every this, every that. Well, she's going to tell him whatever she wants him to hear. And if she's earned his trust over 3 years, well, then he's going to listen to her. But my question is, has anybody asked how she would earn trust in light of the fact that she's working in these places that are counter to America First, counter to MAGA? I mean, if you look at the people that she works with and likes, the list of anti-Trump and Democrat people, I mean, it's not short, according to the Political article, right? I just go to that, right? You don't even have to look any further. Don't even do your own research. Just read the Political article, right? It's 98 pages of, how skilled and successful she is, which in and of itself, if the Politico's doing a fluff piece on someone around Trump's atmosphere, orbit, really? The Politico? And no one sees this as suspicious. I am begging for someone to tell me that I'm wrong and then give me some semblance of evidence, something, anything. Just let me hang my hat on it. I don't, because this isn't a fight that I want. I got other things to deal with. I'm still dealing with COVID stuff. We're dealing with, we're looking at the J6 corruption, which is mind blowing. We're looking at all of these different things. I mean, there's so many different things we got to go. Hell, my wife's fighting cancer. I got so much going on. I don't need this particular fight, and I don't want it. But I feel a duty and an obligation as someone who is, I'm out fighting my ass off for Donald Trump and for America First, right? I'm out fighting every single day for America First. If there's someone trying to undermine it in the organization, don't I have a duty to ask the question? What's wrong with that? I mean, please, JD, you're a smart guy. We're friends. If there's something wrong with my logic, please tell me, because I'll fix it right now and tell you I'm sorry.
Let's look at the logic. So let's work in reverse order from what you said. Number one, you've got Politico, far left news outlet, writing a puff piece about Trump's, essentially his chief of staff / campaign manager. Okay. Somebody that they even say is the most powerful person around him. Do you think that they would have written a puff piece about Steve Bannon or Corey Lewandowski or anybody? No, of course not. That's an alarm bell. Alarm bell number one. And all we have is circumstantial evidence. So people will say, that's circumstantial, that's circumstantial, that's circumstantial. Look, we weren't in the room when he hired her. We weren't in the room when she was talking to Klaus Schwab, or we don't even know if she did talk to Klaus Schwab. She probably did. But we don't know that, We can't make that accusation, but she probably did. But anyway, point is that everything's circumstantial. When you have enough circumstantial evidence, we're not in a court of law here. All we're trying to do is somebody answer whether or not should we trust her? Give us a reason to trust her, because right now all the circumstantial evidence says we should not. So Politico, okay, that's a strike, right? Her association with the World Economic Forum, through Omnicon, through what's the company she's with? Mercury LLC. Which is just screams uniparty. Okay, that's number two. Number three, his weird endorsements. I mean, he's been known for some weird endorsements. I mean, he endorsed Mitt Romney in 2018. By golly, that was awful. But he was doing it strategically. Trump wields endorsements not necessarily based upon who is most aligned with or who he likes the best. A lot of times he does it for strategic reasons. I would say the majority of the time he does. And I thought that the endorsement for Romney was just hey, this guy doesn't like me, I don't like him. let's try to throw out an olive branch. I looked at it like that. Sometimes he will wield his endorsements like that, but still he's getting worse endorsements this time around, and I would say it comes from her. The vaccines, and I would say arguably with her connections with big pharma. Once again, it seems as if at least it's possible that it's coming from Susie Wiles. So I would say that, and there's probably 15 other pieces of circumstantial evidence that you mentioned that I just didn't list off. So we go back to the original premise, the original everything that you said. We're not accusing anybody. We're just asking the question: is she America first? Is she going to do what we need, or is she working for the Uniparty or the globalist elite cabal or the deep state or anybody else? It's a fair question. We're asking it, and we want somebody to get that question over. I would say get it to the Trump campaign, but based upon what we read in the Politico article and everything that you've learned yourself, I don't think that they're going to give us a straight answer unless we can find somebody to do that.
Well, I'll tell you. So, JD, there's two things that I would point out to you. So the first is not just is she America first, but is she America first when Donald Trump can't watch, right? Because it's not what you do in front of someone, it's what you do when their back's turned. And the thing is while Donald Trump is tied up in a courtroom or wherever else he's tied up, what's happening? When the cat's away, are the mice playing? That's the real question. And in light of some of these endorsements, in light of some of these things that are happening, that's a real good question. By the way, have you noticed any really good organized effort on a national level? There's a couple people doing it. Turning Point's doing good. There's a few people doing it. But anything from the Trump campaign that's been an organized effort to combat election fraud on a national level. I mean, I would say that I'm fairly knowledgeable, and I don't have anything that I see that's all that great. I see a lot of different groups doing great things that are all America First groups. But in terms of from the Trump campaign, the biggest threat we have is election fraud. Where is that? What if her job, if she's this brilliant and she's doing all these wonderful things, where is her? What has she rolled out? What has been done to combat Biden's election fraud machine, right? So that would be the first thing is not whether she does a good job when Trump's watching, but what does she do while he's tied up in court or being attacked or whatever else? Because the thing that's more important than what she does in front of him is what she does behind him. So then the other question I would have is, you mentioned with Mitt Romney, the strategy of extending an olive branch. And, I think Trump is probably the best negotiator, looking over the history of his business and this, that, and other, probably the best negotiator you've ever seen. But here's the thing. How'd that work out for him with Mitt, right? How'd that go for you? The problem with negotiating with evil is you're not negotiating, right? You're being lied to. And in this case, what we've got to understand is if you are the America First leader, which Donald Trump is, the idea that he's going to be able to negotiate with the devil is absurd. You can't negotiate with someone who's going to tell you whatever you want to hear and then do whatever they want to do. Because negotiation inherently means, hey, if I'm going to extend you an olive branch here, you extend me one there, right? So I'll do this for you, you do that for me. Well, you go ahead and do it in good faith, and the other guy's, shooting arrows at you. I mean, that's what's happened over and over again. This is politics, not business. In business, if you do that once, you lose your reputation and no one will do business with you. In politics, stabbing people in the back is the name of the game. So, but Trump is the best business negotiator on the planet. But politically, this is a different animal. He keeps extending the branch to these rhino crooks, and they keep stabbing him in the back. I mean, how many times has he had to, and I know, realistically, he's got to work with the Mitch McConnells to an extent. He's got to work with some of these GOP heads to an extent, even though they're crooks. But I will tell you, at some point, America First has to win, not negotiate, right? I want to kick their ass. I don't want to negotiate my principles away. I want to beat the other side, just like they've been doing to us for 40, 50 years. For 40, 50 years, the Democrats and the left have came in and said, oh, let's negotiate. And what they really mean is, hey, we're pro-gun, you're anti-gun. Let's only take some guns away. No, Let's take no guns away. And you know what? Let's arm teachers and teach kids how to use them so they're safe. How about that? How about that for an extreme position? I mean, how about you come farther my way instead of me going farther your way? But the negotiations with the left always start with the premise that we need to move farther left. How about no? How about no? We're way too far left. You're going to come right, or we're going to stop you, because that's what we need. And that's what we need Donald Trump to do. That's what he did in 2016. That's what he stood for his entire political existence. But it's hard for him to do that when he's in a courtroom all the time. And so the question is when he's in a courtroom all the time, how can he do what he does? And who's doing what while he's gone? That's the question I have.
Well, I hope that we are able to get an answer. I really do, and multiple answers to multiple questions, because if there's one thing we learned, we do know for sure that Trump, in most situations, not all, but in most situations, when he starts heading in a wrong direction, he will listen to his base. And so, it's sometimes he does, sometimes he doesn't. I would say the famous example where he did, I don't know if you recall, it was approximately August of 2016. He was, after he'd already locked up the nomination, already had the convention, everything's hunky-dory, he started having the, quote, the softening on the border. He started saying, well, maybe we shouldn't deport all of them. Maybe we should just deport the violent ones. And he even had a town hall meeting with a live audience with Sean Hannity. And they were basically just taking turns on stage trying to pitch the idea of hey, maybe we shouldn't deport everybody. Hey, we need to just deport the bad ones. Hey, maybe we should just, take it down a notch. We're in the general election now. Maybe we need... And the audience was literally screaming, no! Within 3 days of that, Trump's like, you know what? No softening. We're just going to deport them all. So, yeah. Point being is that we need to... my goal here, my hope, is that by getting enough people to ask, what are you doing with this lady? What are you doing with these endorsements? What are you doing? Let's really take hold and make this an America First campaign. This isn't just Republican versus Democrat. We're not just fighting the Democrats. We are fighting the rhinos. We're fighting the uniparty swamp. And one could argue that people such as Mitch McConnell and Lindsey Graham and Kevin McCarthy, who's now on a revenge tour trying to get rid of Matt Gaetz, getting somebody to primary him, those are the people that we are actually fighting, on top of having to fight Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and the squad and everybody else on the left, Chuck Schumer and the works. So that is my intention there, and I appreciate you bringing all of that stuff up. We are on with my good friend, attorney Tom Renz. And Tom and I, we go way back, but there is a business arrangement that we've made that I don't know if a whole lot of people know about it, but I think we need to really announce it. Tom is a partner with us, with our beef company, okay? RenzWholeCows.com, RenzWholeCows, RenzWholeCows.com is where people can get high quality, long-term storage beef, and it will benefit us, it will benefit Tom in his efforts. It'll make it to where he can bring in, let's fly Peter McCullough to talk to Dr. Peter McCullough, to talk to Trump or Susie Wiles or whoever. Let's get that happening. And the best way we can do that is to get people prepared for whatever is to come with long-term storage, high-quality beef such as ribeye, tenderloin, New York strip, and the works. For today's show, I have set up a special. You've never had this before, but I'll let you use it forever. But I set up a special code. Normally we do 5, 10, 15% discounts for today, and it's for today only. That's not true. Ongoing, we're going to have RENZ25, RENZ25 as a promo code, no space, just 6 characters. RENZ25 as a promo code that people can use at RenzWholeCows.com, and they'll be able to get 25% off. That's why it's RENZ25. See what I did there? What do you think about beef in general? And then we'll get back to Trump. I just got to get your 30 seconds of beef endorsement real quick.
Well, you can absolutely have it, right? So, I mean, we broke and we were responsible for making people aware that mRNA is in the food supply. They're putting these poisons in our food, right? So having a supplier of actual food, meat that doesn't have mRNA in it, that doesn't have poisons in it, this is a critical thing. So, it's long-term supply. It stays there for a long time. It's good forever, right? Or at least a long time. And we know Bill Gates wants us to eat bugs. I got to be honest with you. I did try bugs once. I was in the jungle and there wasn't anything else to eat. And we were literally exploring in the jungle. And so I ate bugs and it was disgusting. I'm not eating bugs again. I want beef. So if I can get my beef without mRNA and without poison and without gene therapies in it, that's what I want. Whole cows, great company. I trust JD to make sure that it's the best stuff out there. And I'm very, very eager to have this partnership made more well known, to get it out there, because it's a great company and a great product. So, definitely support Whole Cows, 100%, renzwholecows.com. And thank you for your support on that. We desperately need it. Your support keeps us fighting.
Amen to that, brother. Promo code RENZ25. So, and you've given me far more time than you allotted, so I'm going to be conscientious of the time that you've given me. I know you've got stuff to do, so I'm going to give you one more question. Just one more question. We are now approximately 6 months away. We are seeing chaos everywhere. We are seeing, the Democrats scrambling. There are still rumors, even though time is short. There's still rumors that maybe they're gonna replace him with Gavin Gruesome Newsom or Big Mike Michelle or somebody maybe that we don't even know about. Right? There's rumors that nobody's talking about Kamala replacing him, but that's who would talk about that. So my question for you is, though, between now and the election, I would normally ask the question of what surprise do you think is going to be the biggest? But here's in 2024, things are different. I don't think there's going to be one surprise. I think there's going to be like 375 surprises. So as my final question to you, take as long as you can give me a 3-word answer or a 3-hour answer or anywhere in between. What should people expect between now and the election as possibilities, probabilities, certainties, or maybe the answer is to expect the unexpected, as they like to say in certain circles? What are your thoughts, Tom?
Well, you took my words right out of my mouth. Expect the unexpected, right? We know, I would say probably the highest likelihood is substantial civil unrest. We've had the southern border wide open. We know that there's been over 1 million military-aged Chinese, Iranian, and other such men that have crossed that border. We know of at least one confirmed terror training camp in the United States. I've had a number of people confirm it for me. Apparently the FBI and everybody else knows about it and they just don't care. We've heard stories about these Chinese police departments all over the United States. We're seeing all of this stuff happening. And, it's a little bit hard to say what's going to happen for sure. Now, a lot of people have said that, that we're going to have Disease X. I don't think Disease X will happen until after the election. That's my opinion. I can't back it up. It's based on the intel and everything I've seen. That said, pay attention to the avian flu. This H151, I can't even remember the number right off the top of my head, but the avian flu that's going out right now, they're using it to kill massive numbers of our herds, of our chickens, of our this, of our that. They really want to damage the food supply. Expect massive attacks on our food supply. You're not going to hear about it. What's going to happen is your food costs are going to keep skyrocketing. That's why Whole Cows is so important. But your food prices are going to continue to skyrocket. I don't think there's any question about that. And what you can see is they've actually talked about this new avian flu spreading to cattle, which is, a prerequisite for them to cull a whole bunch of cattle. Well, we've already seen the price of beef skyrocket. That's only going to continue. And they're going to claim if the cows aren't vaccinated with the new avian mRNA poison, which will then poison you, that they're not safe to eat. So and that they need to be cold. This is something that they're going to push. The food supply is one of the most important things for you to watch. Bayer Monsanto is partnered with BioNTech, Pfizer's company that does the mRNA. Ask yourself why. Why would they do that? Well, remember, between seeds and animals, there's a lot of money there, right? So that bioengineering is something you got to watch. We've talked about extensively the possibility of problems there. And I think you're going to see continued push for the dollar. I don't think the dollar will completely collapse until either right before or right after the election, because that could screw up whatever result they want. But you will see the dollar crash at some point. They got to push CBDCs. You're going to see continued pushes. I think that this will be a surprise. I haven't heard anybody say this. I think that there's a very strong possibility that you will see more and more press on election fraud. And the reason I think that they're going to do that is I think they're going to use election fraud as a way to convince hardcore MAGA Americans that these biometric IDs are an okay thing because it'll stop election fraud. I think that's going to be something that they're going to use for it. The elections are controlled, right? They've got the machines, they've got the ballots, they've got all this stuff that they're doing, and I can't show how it's done. I can't prove it all. I'm not accusing anybody of anything I can't prove. I'm just saying that I personally believe that the elections are pretty well controlled, and I've got a lot of evidence to back that up. The one thing that they can do to make it even more so is this biometric ID. They need the universal ID for the Great Reset to work. The Great Reset only works if they've got control. And so I think you're going to see more and more discussion. I think right around the time that it becomes too late to do anything about it, there'll be wide acknowledgement of voter fraud. And I think they're going to use that to try and manipulate or push through and get patriot voters to be okay with, well, they're just going to scan your eyes. They're just going to scan your this. They're just going to scan your that. And by the way, a pro tip for anybody that travels a lot, right now, when you go through TSA and a lot of airports, they're asking to do retinal scans and face scans. You can opt out, but you have to tell them, I'd like to opt out of this if it's okay, sir. They can opt, you're allowed to opt out of it. But if you don't, and they won't tell you that you can opt out, they'll just they'll just scan you and you'll be, but understand, foundational to everything about the Great Reset is universal surveillance and the end of privacy. So I think you're going to see big moves in that realm, and it's going to be tricky. It's going to be underhanded. You're not going to notice it, but they're going to continue pushing it. And I think we've got to really be on alert for that.
Gosh, you're right. I have never heard that. And anytime somebody says, I'm something I've been thinking about, I haven't heard anybody talking about this. I would say, probably, not to brag here, but probably 7 times out of 10, I've either talked about it or I've heard somebody else talk about it, just because I'm immersed in it. I have not heard that before. And that makes total sense to me. It's not just biometrics either. You've got, just yesterday, they were talking about how there was this brutal beating of a 65-year-old nurse in LA at a bus stop or a train stop or something like that. So all of a sudden, now they're talking about, hey, so we're going to go ahead and start setting up here in the next 2 months some facial recognition tracking cameras all over LA everywhere, especially where there's public transportation, just so that we, that way we can see if there's a guy that we think, hey, this guy might be a criminal. It's for your own protection. The biometrics for the ballots, that's for your protection. The mRNA vaccines and the cows, that's for your protection. They're going to protect us into extinction. They're going to protect us into total control. And that's the part that we have to fight back. But I think the most important thing that you said, out of all of those extremely important things that you just said, I'm so glad I asked, the most important thing that you said is that most of us, even those on the right, even those who are very well aware of what's happening to us, I would say the vast majority of us on our side, and everybody on their side, is not going to really notice it all or see the big picture until it's too late. And this is why we have to continue to fight the good fight. We have to continue to speculate. And most importantly, we have to continue to not just ask questions, but to question everything. I do support Trump as you support Trump, But I'm not going to take with blind faith that everything he's going to do is going to be perfect. I'm going to question him when he needs to be questioned. I'm going to question people in his campaign, on his staff, if he does indeed win. And we need to have that mindset that nobody's going to save us. Okay, if you're a Christian, you've already been saved for the long term, but nobody's going to save us on this planet. We're going to have to fight to do it ourselves. We're either going to be doing what we can do, or we're going to be waiting for FEMA to bring us our cricket burgers. And Tom has already said he's not going to eat it. I'm not going to eat it. And I know that at RenzWholeCows.com, we have dedicated, we've made the promise that we'll shut down the company before we allow a single bag of beef that has been injected with mRNA jabs. We won't let it happen. Well, we'll shut down. If they give us no other option, then we'll shut down. We're already looking at other states. Right now, we're based in Texas with Texas ranchers, just in case Texas falls, because it'll be a state thing. It won't be a national thing. Most likely, the states will have to decide to, yes, inject all our cows here. So that'll be the mad scramble. We'll be playing, what is it? Musical ranchers. We're going from ranch to ranch to ranch, but that's a discussion for another day. Tom Renz, my friend, it has been an absolute pleasure and honor, and so super enlightening. This is ridiculous. I should have had you on many, many times before. Let's get you on regularly, because this is this is dumb for me to not have you on regularly. You're too smart. You raise the IQ level of my show, and that's a fantastic thing. So I appreciate that.
That's a scary thing, JD. I got to be honest with you. We got to talk about standards. If I'm raising anybody's IQ, we're in trouble. For God's sakes, I'm a lawyer.
Too
I don't
modest,
bring good.
Too humble. We already said that people can find you on X at Renz Tom. It's your name reversed. Where else can they find you? Where else you've got your show, you've got your website. Where else can people who want to follow your work or even reach out to you, how do they do that?
The easiest way to support us is to go to TomRenz.com. You'll find links to my Substack, TomRenz.substack.com. You'll find links to my locals, to my Rumble. We do a show every day that runs on Rumble and X and all over the place. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, it may soon be running on your show, on your channel, which I'm pretty excited about. Then, It'll go from 5 people watching it to a whole bunch of people watching it, right? But we've got all sorts we're all over the place, right? The biggest thing I can do, and one of the things I want to be real honest with people. I love the lawyer thing. I love what I do, but my wife's fighting stage 4 cancer. I can't do as many big cases as I'd like to right now because of that. So we're focusing real hard on the media. But more importantly, remember, lawfare is 3 parts: legal, political, PR. And the courts are in bad spots right now. I mean, there are some great courts and some great jurists, and the justice system is still the best in the world. But when we see the courts doing the things that they're doing, like this clown show up in New York, where they're attacking Trump and some of these others, there's only so much we can do. The other thing to remember is that as a lawyer, I understand and work with the law, so I know how to put political pressure to push for real legislative change. I know that when you pass this law, if it's got that loophole in it, there's a problem. So if I can come out and tell people, then I still get to do my lawyer thing. I still get to practice lawfare. It's a little bit different angle, but I still get to fight for my country. It's not quite the same, but I think it's actually more impactful than just getting my bar license removed because some court doesn't like me because I'm on the wrong side of whatever their political persuasion is. And so we've really embraced this. We're working very hard. We're still filing cases. We're still supporting cases and, doing a lot of that. It's not that I ever intend to abandon that. It's just, right now we're really hitting it. So please support us in the media at TomRenz.com. Check out our store. I'm trying to perfect my grifting skills. As you all can tell, I suck at grifting. TomRenz.wholecows.com. I suck at grifting, but please help me to become a better grifter. Buy my crap.
Please. Look, it's good crap. Okay.
Notice
that he's not trying to push. What is it? I forgot the name of the company now. Where they sell you a plot of land in Scotland, so you can be a lord or a laird or a lady. he's not pushing that. He's actually pushing stuff that you need. So he's got the good grift going. Love it, love it, love it, love it. Tom, pleasure as always talking to you. Let's talk again very soon.
I hope so.
God bless you, brother. God bless you.